Want to be a part of the conversation? Then let us know on the TNT Radio Interactive Live chat room at tntradio.live. Lighting the fuse for freedom. Today's News Talk, TNT Radio. You're with Joseph Arthur and his Technicolor Dreamcast on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back to Joseph Arthur's Technicolor Dreamcast. This is a very special guest for me, because he was my first ever music manager. So he holds a special place in my heart. We fought many battles against each other, against the music industry. And I don't know, man, it's hard to explain. He's like family. He's family to me. And a little while ago, he reached out to me and he set up what he had to tell me in his usual way of like, it could have been like I have a disease or something. He was like, I got something I got to tell you. It was weird. And then he told me he had become a singer-songwriter, which was very unusual to hear because, you know, he's a great guy. He's fun, funny, and creative, but I just never expected him to take this turn later in life. You know, he's not a spring chicken, nor am I. I'm not sort of calling him old or anything, but I think it's a fascinating story when someone, you know, he's managed all kinds of people, like from Guns N' Roses to Ed Sheeran. He's handled their business and stuff. Like I said, he was my first manager in music, and you know, there's lots to talk about here, but let me intro him. Rob Shore is now a singer-songwriter and recording artist based in St. Augustine, Florida, a former music business manager for clients including Guns N' Roses, Ed Sheeran, Radiohead, and dozens others. He's recently retired and relocated from New York to St. Augustine. Inspired by his surroundings, Rob wrote and recorded his debut single, St. Augustine Day, which garnered positive feedback and was added to the playlist of over 40 radio stations across the U.S. and Canada. I mean, when he managed me, he could never do that for me. Seems
and
very
TNT
weird.
wasn't
like,
one of
dude,
them, by the way.
like, dude, like, I mean, Rob, what's going on here? Were you saving all the good stuff? Anyway, here he is. Without further ado, Rob Shore. Thank you for coming on, man. Wow, this is weird. Worlds colliding. You're in TNT land. TNT is now in your land. TNT is like a new family. You're like an old family who's never not been a family. But, man, it is great to see you and hear your wonderful songs. What's going on, man? How are you?
Well, I'm great, and thank you for having me tonight, Joe. But I want to correct one thing. I didn't reach out to you to tell you that I was a singer-songwriter. I reached out to you to apologize. Do you remember that?
No. What are you apologizing for? I forgot already.
Because
see, I forgive and I forget. Because hold on. Because to really forgive,
forget.
To really forgive means you do forget. You know, like if you're holding on to it, like I forgive, but I don't forget. That means you didn't really forgive. Anyway, so what did you apologize for?
I apologize because I was walking on the beach in St. Augustine and I listened to Come to Where I'm From, and I was listening to the Speed of Sound. And
Speed of Light, Rob.
Speed of Light. Speed of Light. All right.
Now you owe me another apology.
I'm sorry. Speed of Light. And I was thinking like that I had given a mixed message to you and T-Bone when I heard it in the studio. And when I heard it on the beach, it was just so beautiful that I wrote you an apology. And I just said, I'm sorry. You know, 20 years later, I write back, I'm sorry that I ever doubted you and T-Bone. And it was then, and you forgave me and forgot, which is nice. And
listen, Rob, that was over 20 years ago. And, you know, if I was still walking around thinking about, I can't believe Rob Shore didn't get it at the time,
well,
I would
I'm
really
sure
be in trouble as a person. But, you know, what's funny is back then, and this kind of goes in line with you appearing here now as a singer-songwriter, because back then we were so cool for school. You know, T-Bone Burnett, me at the height of my so-called star power. You know, we had all kinds of cool LA people. when you, acting as the music manager, come into the studio and we're like playing you this record we've been like slaving away at, but also having a lot of fun and inspiration. And then you kind of just go, I don't really get it. Like we're hold on. We're not thinking like, wow, we really messed up. We're thinking, what a square.
Well, that's not, I know we're on radio and you can't say the real word you were thinking, but at the time you told me the real word. But it was, and the other thing I said, and I truly mean this, is I said, as I was listening to two of your records, I was saying, boy, just one great song after another. And I said to you, my best song. My best song is not as good as your worst song.
Yeah.
And then you said, well, send it over. And you said, you're right, Rob. When you're right, you're right. No, you said, you said that's not true. And then you added, you said, but I've written a lot of songs, Rob. So don't get carried away with yourself.
I've written some stinkers, bro. That's how you have to get to the gems. You know what's funny that you hold on, Rob, hold on. Like, this is like us talking on the phone. You're just going to cut me off left and right, and I'm going to cut you off. But check this out, because you just called it Speed of Sound, the song Speed of Light on Come to Where I'm From, available now on Spotify and iTunes. No, but yesterday I played an incredible show in New York, if I do say so myself, and it was packed and amazing. And I did end up playing Speed of Light. Somebody requested it from the audience. And I met this new fan afterwards, and he was like, man, this is the first time I've seen you. It's amazing. And he goes, there is this one song, though, and it was like Speed of Light. And I kept wanting you to say Speed of Sound. He said that to me last night.
He said that last night.
Last night, dude. And nobody's ever said that to me before. And so then this keeps happening in the world, like these kind of like events. Are these kind of events happening in your life more and more?
Yeah, well, when Rob Bozos, Peter Gabriel's publisher, texted me after like 20 years, 10 minutes after I spoke to you, and I hadn't spoken to you in 2 or 3 years, so that happens.
Right.
So that happens with my wife, like, every day. It's like, oh, I was thinking the same thing, so.
That she wants to get a divorce? No, it's a joke.
No,
it's a joke,
I know it's a joke. I go, please, no, it's like, I go, please don't divorce me. And she goes, oh, I was just thinking about doing that. That's the common, no, my sweet wife. I love her. It's going on like 40 years we've been together.
So, Rob,
I'm sure that's very interesting to your. So,
no.
can I just go ahead?
It's your show. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you said this is like us having a phone conversation, this is what we would do for an hour every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturday and Sunday. We would just talk about whatever was going on, and then we would fit in kind of the business part of it. But it was a really fun friendship, and we fought like brothers, like we did. But we also we when I was thinking back today just about our relationship, it's mostly happy memories. Just even the fights were fun.
I'll never forget the time we went to Real World Records, and it was the first time you were going to meet the team at Real World Records, which is like Peter Gabriel, Mike Large, who's the head of Real World Records. And there was a meeting set up like at a specific time at noon, and they kept us waiting for I think like a couple hours or something, and you were just getting more and more enraged as the time passed, and you were like, I'm gonna leave. And you were about to like leave Real World and go get on a flight and go back to America. And I remember that when we finally had the meeting, it's a little vague, but you were like, they sort of talked you down off the ledge. Do you remember that story, and what's your recollection of it?
Well, earlier in the day, it was when Princess Diana had just passed away, and
Well, you should
it's
have had
just
a
like one
heart
of
then, Rob.
right, and we were we were at the Windsor Castle where all the flowers were, and I just
Right.
remember you saying the funniest thing I had ever heard, and with an entire country mourning, you and I were like laughing hysterically
Come
and
on, don't say this
inappropriately.
on
Oh,
radio.
all right. I can't. Can I tell? It's a funny. I
What's
can't
the
tell the
story?
story.
What's the story? Yeah, go ahead. What's the story?
The story is you read one of the there were cards that people wrote, and someone wrote, Princess Diana, we will miss you. Best wishes, and then their name, and you said, who writes best wishes to a dead person? Sorry. I
Oh my God. All right.
Sorry. Move on. All right. So yes, the
Yeah,
Mike Large meeting. Yes, when we were enraged and I was going to leave. I just thought it was, I don't want to get into it. They may listen to this, but it was like I came all the way from New York and to be there. Why can't they be on
yeah.
time? And it just was sort of like, we'll show you who's boss here, and we got
And
over
and
it.
do you think like as age has occurred, do you think maybe you were extra sensitive then? Do you think that there was a who we'll show you who's boss thing, or do you think you misread the situation? How much like sort of self-work have you done in terms of seeing yourself maybe as your own foibles as opposed to others people's?
How much? Very little. Very no. I've done. Yeah. Well, I'm not so. I'm still sensitive, but I'm not sensitive to that kind of thing. And it was just like, who was I? It was sort of ego, and everybody kind of, But I think
Yeah.
I've gotten better. I hope so. Anyway, I asked for forgiveness from you for the speed of light.
Yeah, well, that was all forgiven already. So you've worked
Right.
with other people like Guns N' Roses and Ed Sheeran. I'm curious if you ever said to Ed, like, "Hey, Ed, the thing you do, the shtick with the looper pedal and all that, Joseph Arthur did that first. Did you ever think about throwing him a bone, maybe saying something in the press like, hey, like this guy did that first? Did you ever do that for your old time brother here, Rob? Just curious."
No, I thought it. I thought it, but I never said it to him. And
Thanks,
I
Rob.
I was yeah. So let's review. I didn't say the name of your song right. I embarrassed you about an incident at Windsor Castle and never told Ed Sheeran. Uh, just to be fair, he was very insulated, and I didn't have a lot of opportunity to have these kind of
Yeah.
discussions.
I'm just giving you a hard time. So let's talk about your transition, man, because this is to me very interesting. And I told Kenny Gabor and Vaughn Lewis, who are managing me now, last night in New York, that I was going to be talking to Rob Shore, and Vaughn was like overwhelmed, overjoyed.
Oh, well,
They're
that's
both sending you, all their love, and over again said, make sure you tell Rob Shore that we say hello. And
well, that's
I
nice.
told it,
Yeah.
I told them about your story with Jeff Tweedy's book, How to Write a Song, and how that inspired you. But what can you say to others who maybe have a secret passion or a secret sense of purpose, and they've done a whole career in a life that it wasn't that necessarily, but they've transitioned into that
Right.
later in life, or how you've done that? I mean, and you've embraced this. Like when you first told me, hey, I'm writing songs, I expected, I don't know what I expected. I mean, I listened to what you sent me so quickly that I was quickly in the universe you're creating, which is exceptional. I mean, it's really
Oh,
shockingly good, and I'm not blowing
thanks,
smoke,
Joe.
but or else you wouldn't be here, like, but um Yeah, I didn't expect it to be this full-on passion. I mean, you're more passionate. You're probably arriving at an area of your life now. I mean, how old are you? Do you mind saying? I mean, I think it's
I don't mind at
important.
all. I'm gonna be 39 next month, actually. No, I'm 68 years old, Joseph.
68 years old. And would you say that what you're discovering now is a greater passion outside of family and love and all that than you've ever had before in your life?
No. I mean, it's I'm into it, but I've been into other things. I was into managing you. I really, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your. Can you say ass? I already said it.
It's a family-friendly show.
Okay, I'm not blowing smoke up yours. It's like, it's when I stop being passionate about stuff is when I stop doing it. And but I am full. People say so. I retired, as you may or may and it's like, so what are you doing? Are you playing golf? And I said, no, I'm writing songs and playing them, and everybody has what I said I thought you were thinking, has the expression of like, ay, ay, ay. Like, oh boy. And then I go, do you want to hear one of them? And they go, okay. And then they go, hey, it's pretty good, not bad. But Joe, just to hear you say that is, one of my high points of doing it. And, and I don't look at it like, oh, someday I'll do a radio show. Someday I'll do this, I'll do that. I'm writing songs. I'm with my friend Lucio, who produces with me or for me. And I kind of have a working man's, ethic. It's like, I just try to write, I record, I do it. And then stuff like this happens, which whoever.
Dude, listen, let me say this though, because the whole like, hey, this is my golf is kind of not really what I'm seeing, because you're in in recording studios. The stuff you're recording is highly produced, right? Plus, you have like a YouTube guy. I'm not trying to call out anything. It doesn't matter. Like we all actually, that was one of the conversations Vaughn had with me yesterday, is that the algorithms on social medias now, they level everybody unless you pay for it. So that's just par for the course these days. If you want to get the same social media engagement, it's going to cost you something it didn't cost you 2 years ago. You're engaging in it on that level. You got a YouTube channel, you're getting tons of views. You're like, you're going for it. You have the energy of somebody going for it. A guy who's just like, hey, I'm picking up the acoustic guitar and writing a couple of little ditties here and there. They're not doing that. They're like, I called you like a few days later and you answered and you're in a recording studio, dude. That's not somebody who's supplementing like his golf, desires for an acoustic guitar. That's somebody who's got real energy behind it. But let's talk more about that after these words on TNT.
TNT's Kate Shemirani.
I'm of the belief that your body can totally 100% heal itself if you remove the offending things and you flood your body with what it needs. What do your dogs and your kids do when they get sick? They lie down and sleep, don't they? They don't want to eat. They get great big temperatures and they just want to rest. What, do you think you're a special snowflake? You're any different? No, that's you as well. But what do they want to do when you go to the hospital? I've seen it firsthand in the last couple of weeks. They're just going to serve you rubbish food, wheat, sugar, dairy, animal protein, tea and coffee, fluoridated, chlorinated, bromine, water, drugs, pharmaceutical, petroleum-based drugs.
Kate Shemirani on today's News Talk, TNT.
The Light is Britain's far-right conspiracy theory paper spreading hate and vicious lies. No, that's what the BBC say. The Light is the only national newspaper bringing you the real news and informed opinion on what's really going on today. You can subscribe, order copies, submit articles, and read back issues on our website, thelightpaper.co.uk, and see for yourself why the establishment are so worried about the uncensored truth getting out to people every month. They've launched a new service called Wake Up Your Neighbours, where you can get copies delivered to the streets right around you if you don't want to do it yourself. The Light Paper. Not for right, just right so far. thelightpaper.co.uk.
Our next steps to space.
This time we go back to the moon to learn to live, to work, to invent, to create.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
And we're back with Rob Shore, singer-songwriter, former music manager to the stars, me included. So Rob, where we left off was you sort of underselling it, the casualness of this new passion, and me sort of attempting to correct you that you're not acting as a casual participant here. What do you say to that?
What I say is I'm retired and I could devote a huge amount of energy and time to it. So when it's the only thing you're doing, pretty much, it's easy to be perceived as totally 100% into it, which I am. But and the other thing is I've got connections. I've got, when you said about the radio stations, for example, I just had played one song to a manager, and they said, "Oh, well, you should talk to my person who gets stuff on the radio." And I said, "Okay," and they played it, and they said, "Okay, well, I could definitely get this played," and it's not like, it's college radio, things like that. It's not, it wasn't like an international success, but it was exciting to hear it, to hear my songs on the radio was like really, really exciting. So anyway, does that answer the question, Joe? Am I off the
It
hook?
does, yeah. I just I want you to describe a religious experience. I want lights coming from the heavens.
All right. If you had been in touch with me, there are people who are truly sick of hearing me talk about my music. I mean, I spend a tremendous amount of time and energy doing it. So, okay. Yes is the answer. If that gets
Well, and the other side of it, and one of my main motivations for having you on, and and I personally love you and love our interactions and exchanges, is
same here.
And plus I've been getting called an anti-Semite lately, so I figured I better have you on. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm glad I could help you out, just in case
it's
anybody.
It's a reputation repair thing as much as anything, Rob. No,
right. Well, glad to help you out.
Who do I know that's Jewish? No,
oh, Rob, perfect.
No,
he's got the nose. He's got everything. Yeah,
the name. No, but one of the things was, I find it incredibly inspiring because my years are advancing as well, and I think we live in an ageist society, right? And so. Right. You keep saying I'm retired and stuff, and it's like, what does that mean? That means you're stopping one sort of trajectory into another, because there really is no retirement from life. You have to deal with, evolution and stuff. So I just find it inspiring that someone who is has been alive for a while hasn't given up on life. And so what do you factor is the reason for that, or what's the reason that you haven't given up on life?
Well, I'm gratefully in good health. I go to the doctor, and I'm the only. I'm not the only person, but they always, at my age, Joe, you'll find this out, is they go, "So what medications are you on?" And I go, "None." They go, "Well, no, but what pills do you take every day?" And I go, "I take 1 a day vitamin, and I take the other one, the fish oil, so which helps my mood." And so anyway, I'm healthy is one. Two, to do what I'm doing, when we were working together at the beginning, you had to travel around the world to get a following, and the whole thing was, I can remember, you would schlep. I use some Jewish there to help you. You would schlep, all over the world, and it was like, oh, there were 20 people this time, and that went to 40 people. That's really good. And for me, I feel bad, but, I can't go travel around the world. Spotify said 94 countries played my songs last year. Now, granted, they were one in Guyana, it's like, it doesn't, it only takes one listen in one country, but it's like astounding to me that I work with this guy in Poland who does the social media, Andrew, and, as long as I supply him with pictures and music and live stuff on a regular basis, so it's almost like going to a gym and you wouldn't work out, or I wouldn't work out, or don't work out unless I have a trainer. And, it's like, this guy's my trainer. He goes, okay, we need some more pictures. Do you have any dog pictures of you petting a dog? That's I get a lot of feedback on that. And then, God bless you, Joseph Arthur, I told him, I said, push France, because I've seen how that can work, how you can, that they like singer-songwriters there. And so, I had him push that. And so I guess, I'm not sure what your question was, but that is definitely my answer to the question.
Well, it brings up this other thing that Vaughn was talking to me about yesterday, in that social media, used to be the way to go for it. That's what you're sort of describing. And that now it's going back towards email lists because of the fact that the algorithm is, I forget what word he used, but is broken essentially for people that aren't paying. It's like now social media is becoming the payola of old. So it's almost like radio used to be, where you needed what was called indie promo, which meant you needed a record company, because it is essentially payola. I mean, even to get your single considered back in the 90s, you had to have a significant indie promo budget, which meant payola. And that was like usually, significant, $100,000 or something like that to push a single. And you don't need anywhere near $100,000 to push your stuff on social media, but you need a budget for that. And it's probably out of the reach of a lot of young bands. I mean, especially in these tight times. So what's happening now is, the email list thing a couple of years ago was considered a Luddite thing, old hat, older people still dealt with email lists. Not true anymore. The young generation is really into this email list culture, and there's all kinds of ways of growing it, even to the point where Vaughn was telling me they designed something to take MailChimp out of the equation, because once your email list grows to something like 60,000 or something like this, then all of a sudden MailChimp charges you an arm and a leg. So they're even designing their own version of that, so they don't have to pay for anything. And so that's real interesting. And the other thing I would say, as somebody who's been out of live music for a while because of, having a rational mind and not being afraid to use it, whatever. But like,
we're even. Princess Diana, go ahead.
Which reminds me of the joke I had, which was pure fire, when you said, I have something embarrassing to tell you, Joe. And I said, what, you got the vax? That was good.
That was good.
You even acknowledged it.
I laughed.
And that was when you told me that you were a singer-songwriter, which isn't embarrassing, actually. It's profoundly amazing. But the fact is now that it's coming back to this email list thing, and coming back into live music, as I am slowly starting to do, that connection that you have. You can't really fake that. Yes, I'm a believer in social media, in YouTube. I want to figure out better ways of building that kind of thing out. But in order for a singer-songwriter, I think, to really connect and to really take it to the next level, you do still have to schlep your stuff around and tour. Are you prepared to do that?
I don't know. Maybe. Why? Maybe. I don't know. But can I think about that for a second? But, you know, the reason I'm laughing is, it's 8:00 at night here. And I'm like, okay, well, I hope I'm not too tired to do this. I have like this hot water bottle behind my back so it won't hurt and stuff. So, age is, I'm no spring chicken as you said. But, in relation to what you were saying about, I'll just tell you my experience. There's we've been doing these live recordings, and you saw the video where I was wearing your shirt, and my wife Laura has done a couple of videos where she spent an amazing amount of time on them. And the one thing that I put out on social media that has like 1,000 people in France have shared this video is Lucio and I singing a song together. And then at the end of it, we're just like so ecstatic about the result that, it just shines through. And that's the thing. Everything else that we spend hours and hours on, nothing or very little, but that one video really has captured people. Not, it's not millions, but
that's the thing. Well, that's the thing with art, though. You have to be dedicated to it completely because you don't know what those moments are going to be. You have to do all those hours and hours because that also could be the thing that captivates people. But that's the job of the artist, is to expend, ludicrous amounts of energy towards this thing. And you just never know what the result will be. And you're doing that, even though you're trying to sort of soft sell it or kind of, downplay it, you're clearly doing it.
I'm doing it, and I'm enjoying it, and I get amazing satisfaction when I wake up in the morning and I see anybody from anywhere in the world who said, I really liked your song. But most of all, Joseph Arthur, from you saying this, because you are kind of a musical songwriting idol of mine, and I would like to reminisce for one moment. I know this is about me, but I'd like to talk about you for a moment, if it's okay. Do you remember the first thing I ever said to you at Arlene's Grocery?
No.
Well, thanks a lot, Joe. No, it was over 20. It was over 20 years ago. And I remember it because I never said it to anybody else. And I went up to you, and at the end of your set, I said, my name is Rob Shore. I'm a manager, and I think you're a genius.
I did remember it, but I didn't want to be forced to repeat it. So.
Right. That's cool. And then and then you said, Rob, I totally agree with you.
Did I really?
No, you didn't. No, you didn't say that at all. We just like connected, and I was probably the only person ever to request that night that you play Bottle of You, which has anyone ever requested that since?
Of course. It's a good song.
All right.
It's
a great song. I loved it. All right.
Let me ask you this, though. So you've worked with all kinds of musical people, and I appreciate those kind words, me included, but you've worked with Ed Sheeran, you've been in the music business.
Yeah.
How much has that experience informed your own process now that you're on the other side of it?
Right. And just to clarify, the majority of these people you mentioned, I was the business manager, which is different than the relationship we had as a creative manager. And a lot of them were, European. I just don't want to make more of it than it was.
I'm not trying to make more of it, but at the same time, you're immersed in it. You know what I mean? You can't help but pay attention. Yeah, you're handling the books and everything like that. But you also were a creative manager on top of that, and you were involved in it, and it has to inform what you're doing now. And you should, I think, spend a little time considering that.
Okay, and I will. But and again, you. A couple of things. I just want to finish the story about you were genius, because I told my wife reminded me of this a few days ago as I was preparing for this. I told her, I came home, I said, this is the only time in my life where I saw someone and I said, I have to have this person as part of my life. That I have to, that this guy is Neil Young, he's Van Morrison, he's Bob Dylan. He is the guy. And the only other time I did that was when I met my wife. And that's true.
That's kind of weird. No, I'm just kidding.
That was a sweet response to that very
comparing me to your wife, Rob. It's listen, I think I'm off the anti-Semitic hook right now. I think like
all right.
job
no more.
done,
Okay,
Rob.
good. All right, cool.
Anyway, so you're going to play a song for us next, and I'm excited about it. You got your partner there, Lucio. What song are you going to play? And I also want to talk about, the book that you read that really sort of kicked this all off. I'd like to take all the credit for it, but it was Jeff Tweedy's book, which is also inspiring because, we can affect other people's lives to a huge degree. I mean, the fact that Jeff Tweedy wrote this book has completely changed your life. So I want to talk about that when we come back, but also, what song are you going to play for us? And your best friend passing is also what I think sparked this songwriting journey that you're on.
He actually, I can't talk about that because I'll start crying. So, and I mean it. So,
all right. Well. Let me take a quick break.
I'll talk about the Jeff Tweedy book, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Jeff Tweedy book, but we're going to hear a song first when we come back on the other side of these words on TNT.
De-weaponizing weather with reality and perspective.
I wrestled in college for the currently #1 wrestling team in the United States, Penn State University. And as a matter of fact, with it being an Olympic year, it's a big year for wrestling. So I am all into wrestling. Now, I am a volunteer strength and nutrition advisor for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. I was much more active several years ago. Anyway, we got a couple of gold medalists on our team. One is actually the coach now, Jake Varner. Another one is David Taylor, who wrestled at Penn State and just recently won the gold medal at 85 kilograms or whatever it is today. The weight classes are all over the place. But I was figuring this out the other day. If I use the Michael Mann philosophy of being a Nobel Prize winner, that means I'm a gold medalist. Really? How is that possible? Well, I advised Jake and I advised Dave on some of their nutrition and certainly their way they were training for weights and things like that, because that was what I was, a volunteer strength coach. So they win the gold medal. It means I too am a gold medalist. In fact, I want you to think about your life. Did you say something to someone that actually did something big? That's yours too. Go on and claim it. You know what's interesting? I don't hide any of the things I actually do. When you look at what Dr. Mann did, he won't show anybody his work. Now, wouldn't you naturally be suspicious about that? Suspicious enough to say, maybe you don't have a gold medal, and maybe you don't have a Nobel Prize either. This is weatherbound.com Chief Meteorologist Joe Bastardi, TNT's climate and weather watchdog, asking you to enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
I tell my son, I love you every single day.
I love you.
Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT, with Joseph Arthur and his Technicolor Dreamcast.
And we're back with former music manager to the stars and now singer-songwriter in the later years of his life, Rob Shore, plus his partner in songwriting crime, Lucio Rubino, and they're going to do a song for us. Rob, what's this song called? And give us a little bit about what inspired it.
I can't, Joe. I mean, can I tell you after? Or I could play another song if you want me.
No, play this and tell us after.
And do you want to hear about Jeff Tweedy, or are we past that?
We'll get to that after the song.
All right. Didn't see it coming. Might have done something. What's the sense of wondering, sweet friend of mine? Always so kind. Might have given a sign. Didn't have to do it. You can't undo it. I know that you knew it, sweet friend of mine. Always so kind. Maybe in another life, maybe one with much less strife, I'll give a little wink and nod, then you'll know it's your friend Rob. But until then, I'm still your friend, always. But let's not pretend it don't hurt so bad. And I'm so sad, still a little bit mad. Life's unforgiving, but it's still worth living. Just wish you could listen to me now. Come back somehow. Take one more bow. Sweet friend of mine, taught me how to be kind. All right. I screwed up the ending, but
very beautiful song, Rob.
Thank you.
You know, and I know the subject matter is tough to talk about, but I don't know if you want to try.
Yeah. Just a friend of mine died, and he was a childhood friend, and we were friends for over 50 years. And he taught me how to be kind, and he did it. It came naturally to him, and I had to learn it. He taught me. That's all I can say.
By example, or
I mean, by example, but I met him in junior high school. We were in plays together in high school. He was an actor who went to Boston University, and I went to Boston University mostly because I was friends with him. We were roommates in college. He lived in New York, and we would go out to lunch. It was just, how did he teach me how to be kind? He was just like an inclusive person. I'll give you one example of how inclusive he was. He was in a play in San Francisco, and I went to see him in a play. And when I got up there, he was going out to dinner with the cast, and he really didn't need to have me there. You know, it was like a work thing. And 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Al Pacino at dinner, and that's how inclusive he was, that he had his friend from junior high school come hang out. But you know, he was just sweet. You know, he was just a sweet person who had a difficult childhood, and we were buddies.
It got to
you know,
him. It got to him in the end. Do you think, or you don't know?
I think, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to, you know, we should move on, I guess, because I can tell how emotional this makes you. But the song has that weight to it as well, man, and it really does tell the story. You being mad and all the different range of emotions. And this life is so crazy, really. I mean, I was just with one of my dear friends last night who's paralyzed from the waist down and struggling and just like, I was like, man, how about this life? And he was like, woof, I had no idea. And so it's like, how do you think, I mean, what's a way for you to overcome periods of struggle in your life?
Wow. Well, I mean, quite honestly, I take fish oil, but I take fish oil because, you know, every morning, especially these days, there's so much sad news that it's a struggle to be positive. So, I mean, was the question, how do I beat sort of being depressed or having a positive outlook?
What do you think? Why do you think you're imbued with this survival instinct that's led you to sort of songwriting? And this veers into the Jeff Tweedy book, but just, you know, like, why do you think some of us can reinvent, some of us can progress past difficulties, whereas others maybe are quicker to give up?
My answer would be just too self-serving of, you know, it's like you didn't want to tell the story of me telling you what a genius you were. I don't want to tell you how great I am.
The reason it's not self-serving, Rob, is because there's lots of people struggling in the world, you know, and so if they hear the story of how somebody overcomes, that can be inspiring. So don't be afraid to be self-serving in this regard, I would say.
Joe, you're so smart. All right, fine. I wake up every morning and I'm a little down, to be honest with you. And I wake up and I have my coffee and I do my to-do list. And somehow I always have 20 things on my to-do list. And when I start being productive, I start feeling better. And when I get like one positive, you know, people are so gracious online. You know, I loved your song, and I spend a bunch of time writing back saying thank you for your kind words. It means so much to me. And then by 10 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I feel better. And then I just go through my to-do list. I have a thing with that my wife thinks is funny. When I do my to-do list, you know, a lot of people get bogged down on, I've got so much to do. I'm not doing, you know, the important thing that I need to get done. And I have things on my to-do list, and I've talked to Lucio about this, where it doesn't matter what I'm doing, as long as I'm doing something on my to-do list, that's good enough. So if, you know, it could be like the whole world is crashing down on me on one issue, and I have cleaned my desk on my to-do list or do the dishes, I'm okay at that moment that I'm accomplishing. And I just I just get off for whatever reason on crossing off things on my to-do list, and my goal every day is to do at least half of the things on my to-do list. And I'm talking about
so it's
yeah, go ahead.
It's
sorry.
like a compartmentalization and sort of pragmatic approach to sort of life, and just do, it's almost like you could almost call it a Zen-like philosophy of just staying centered in the moment, because really all the demons come from the past and sort of anxiety of the future. So if you can center yourself in the moment, that is a huge way to keep our spirits elevated, I think. And I feel like that's kind of what you're saying.
I think you're right, and you said it much more eloquently, and I had never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm not trying to pretend I don't have demons. I'm still apologizing for a meeting with T-Bone Burnett 20 years ago. Like, things still haunt me, but I'm just trying to get through every day.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Jeff Tweedy book. What was it about it that inspired you, and how'd you pick it up? And tell the story about seeing Pat Sansone, who's in Wilco, and that's a funny one.
It is funny. So I don't know. I don't know how. Either my wife bought it for my birthday. Somehow I was aware that there was a book about how to write your first song. And for me, every client I had, I admired for the ability to create a song that hadn't been written before. To me, it was like magic. And I was in awe of anybody who could do it, and I couldn't do it. And so I'm reading this book, and in the first chapter, I believe the first chapter, he goes, "You're not going to be Bob Dylan." That was like one of the first things. It was like, oh, okay, good. Like, I don't have to do that. I'm very capable of not being Bob Dylan. And then he said, it doesn't matter. Like, failure is part of it. He goes, it doesn't matter what you do. Just write anything. And he goes, you don't have to even, I play the guitar okay. It was good enough to be able to play chords to write a song. But he goes, it doesn't matter if you play guitar. It doesn't matter if you just have a drum. Anything you do is progress in writing your first song. And discipline yourself. Try to do it every day. And so I did it, and I was playing the guitar, and I was doing it. And I came up with this one hook, which was on St. Augustine Day, which I won't play it. And it was just like going around and around for like days. I was just like, and I go, this is really pretty. This is a really pretty hook. And I just kept on going, and I was in St. Augustine, and as I explained to you, it was around COVID, and I couldn't leave my condo in St. Augustine, and I was reading this book, and I got this hook, and I just kept saying St. Augustine Day, and I just played it, and then it turned into a song, that was heartfelt, where I talked about my brother and being retired and going to the beach and walking my dog and just how much I loved being in St. Augustine. And then I played it, and then I recorded it on my phone. Do you want me to keep talking about this, or are you losing interest? Are you with me still?
Well, no, I'm with you, and there's a lot in what you just said. And interestingly, though, you're not going to be Bob Dylan, but what Bob Dylan never lost was that sort of naivety. Like, he obviously was profoundly complex lyrically in a lot of ways, but there was also, like, he wasn't afraid to say something very simple and simply. And with Jeff Tweedy giving you the permission to suck, like, that is so creatively inspiring. The fact that you're allowed, and Rick Rubin's been doing a lot of this lately too. Like, he's come out with his podcast and his book on creativity, and just talking about how, it's all about getting past the demon of procrastination and and getting past the demons within that tell you, well, you don't have anything to say, you're probably going to suck, this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And you just go forward anyway, and you keep your perfectionism at bay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be great. And I think what's appealing about the songs you've written is they do have that spark of simple naivety that can be really appealing because it comes off as very honest. You're not shrouding anything, and you're sort of laying it bare, sort of at the limit of your capabilities for what they are right now. And that's what I think is really working.
Well, what?
We got 1 minute left. You got to tell everybody where to find you.
I'm in St. Augustine. I don't know. What do I say?
Your socials, Rob. Your social media stuff.
I think it's Rob Shore Music on everything. I think it's Rob. I don't know, Joe. I'm sorry.
Come on, Rob.
Lucio, Rob Shore. Rob Shore Music on Facebook. Rob Shore Music on Instagram. I think Rob Shore Music on YouTube. And that's all I got. And I'm
all right, Rob. I love you, Lucio. Great to see you too. Great song. Thanks for coming on the show, and I'll talk to you later, Rob. Thanks, brother.
All right, thanks.
Keep listening. We'll be back with more on TNT. Love you too.